There is a captivating show which will be happening at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg from the 6th through the 9th of September before moving to Cape Town on the 14th to the 16th. The Museum of Lungs follows one woman's personal experience of tuberculosis or TB to tell a story of vulnerability, illness and the expression of sickness. With live music, puppetry and storytelling theatre, the Museum of Lungs seeks to engage with South Africa's violent history of mining and the predation through apartheid. And here on the show to share more on the production, we're joined by Stacy Hardy, the puppet, and music composer Neo Muyanga. Very good morning to you too. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Stacey, I'm going to start with you. What is the state of TB infection in general, and how does this place seek to address it?
Well, look, I think that the TB is endemic in South Africa. So it's one of the global high points of the disease. And the play, to a large extent, tries to tell us a personal story that places it within a bigger context. Okay. So to ask the really difficult questions about the health system and about the mining industry and about South Africa's colonial history and its history of apartheid and how that feeds into a contemporary health system. But it's very much a play that's told through a personal journey. It's very much a story. It's very much alive with music. It's told through music and through words, both in combination.
And the show is centered around the personal story of a woman who's living with the disease. So who are you specifically targeting?
I think that, look, the show isn't really targeted as an educational show. It's a show for anyone. It's a show for anybody who's been sick. Okay. It's a show for anybody who's had to deal with health systems. It's a show for anybody who has a body and anybody who's asking questions about South Africa, its history, what it means to be a South African today, and how do we cope with our history and how that interacts in our body. I think we tend to see our history as something abstract and separate from us, and we tend to see our systems as something abstract and separate from us. And this play really says those institutes, that entire history interacts and has impact on our bodies, it has impact on our health. And it's trying to address those kind of questions and tell a story about that.
Right. Now, this story touches on a very serious and a vital conversation affecting our communities and societies. Who did you specifically work with on the project, and who gave you the kind of context that you needed, in order for you to implement this kind of show? And was there a doctor in the mix of things?
There have been a number of doctors, in fact.
Really?
But the beginning is, Stacy and I have known each other for a number of years, worked on other projects. And the director, Lale Soliman, who's based in Cairo, is a dear friend. And we started talking about this project, talking about Stacy's own experience of illness and about how it relates to all of us and our history. Okay. And we'd met another wonderful composer, Nancy Munir, who's also based in Cairo. And so we're telling the story as a kind of a quadruple, and the three of us are on stage. Stacy speaks it, and Nancy and I are trying to articulate some of the emotional conversation, musically, sonically. And we've consulted the archives, we've consulted doctors, radiologists, both here and in Egypt, but also read a lot about the question of disease and this idea of disease as dis-ease, right, and how it affects and how it interacts with all of us, and how we, as Stacy is saying, how we engage within our bodies and how we look at communication and expression.
Okay. Now, we know that the government recently introduced educational programs that are aimed to educate the infected and the affected ones and bring them into the fold. How is that incorporated into the play?
There are references. Yeah, there are references to journalistic escapades. For example, we focus on the drug-resistant TB debacle and people escaping from hospital, and we ask questions about what that says to us in relation to the hospitalization of people and the criminalizing of people who've got a certain illness, but also how it relates to those of us who are outside, as families, as relatives, as friends who wait for answers about what the future holds. Yeah. And so we engage with that. But there's also a bit of humor in dealing with a story like this. We also try to see how all our lives are encompassed by these questions. And so it's not just the drama or the trauma of the mediascape, but it's also about how there's still a personable way to communicate disease in music terms, but also in kind of gentle, more soft terms about how we want to engage with ourselves and communicate with each other.
And I guess that's more effective in getting the message across, eh?
Well, we hope. I mean, it interests us to tell multidimensional stories, and we hope that opens up the possibility for other people.
All right. Neo and Stacy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Eh?
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right. The Museum of Lungs will be showing at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg between the 6th and the 9th of September, and then Cape Town between the 14th and the 16th of September. Now, the production on tuberculosis reveals the problems with our health system and tells the story of a lived experience of so many South Africans. And before we go, let's now take a look at the social media responses.
My name is Simpiwe.